In this next section, we will cover the ways in which WDFW can provide technical assistance to project sponsors for their applications. WDFW fish passage technicians and biologists can provide initial project scoping assistance, including determining fish use and, more importantly, salmonid use for the stream associated with the project site or sites. We can also complete barrier assessments and, if needed, barrier reassessments. Note that for sites submitted with applications, any assessment older than 10 years will require a reassessment. Also, as a component of this work, we will update the FPDSI web map, and in instances where barriers upstream or downstream of the project site have been completed, we can complete and submit repair forms. This will ensure the stream associated with your project is up to date in terms of barrier assessments and barrier passability. Lastly, WDFW is responsible for completing a qualitative habitat assessment for each stream associated with a submitted site or sites. Another important aspect of the barrier assessment or assessments included in initial project scoping is completing the upstream and downstream check. This is required for all submitted projects and is meant to provide information on the number of and the severity of barriers to fish passage above and below the submitted project site or sites. For all barrier assessments, WDFW follows our standard protocol for assigning potential species use, which is not only a means of confirming a stream is fish bearing, but also relates directly to project benefits. Note that for board projects, the species considered for scoring and ranking are Chinook, pink, coho, chum, sockeye, and steelhead. WDFW technicians and biologists will be responsible for assigning species use as a component of barrier assessments and barrier reassessments. Also, during site visits to complete the barrier assessments, WDFW can provide an overview of the barrier board process, as well as answer questions from sponsors about the specific protocol used to determine barrier status and passability of crossing structures. In addition to the barrier assessment component, WDFW is required to complete a qualitative habitat assessment, or QHA, for every submitted application. The QHA is an important part of the scoring and ranking process, and it provides an empirically derived determination of habitat quantity and quality to be gained by correcting the site or sites associated with an application. Note that as barrier correction projects are completed over the years, the need for updated QHAs could require additional site visits and additional site assessments be completed for a specific site, stream, or a barrier. The QHA score is a function of the length of habitat to be gained through correction of the target barrier or barriers, modified by the presence of upstream barriers and a set of 5 habitat metrics. To provide more detail on the particulars of the QHA, the length component of the assessment is obtained by adding all the stream reaches above the project site up to the first total barrier, the third partial barrier, or the end of fish use. End of fish use is outlined in WDFW's barrier assessment protocol and includes specific metrics, methods, and means for how we determine end of fish use. Further, the length component also includes all tributaries associated with the target stream above the barrier submitted for correction. This length is incorporated into the QHA score following the same steps, meaning each tributary length is included up to the first total, the third partial, or the end of fish use. The other piece of the QHA score, the habitat metrics, are a set of 5 criteria, which include riparian area, so how much riparian is there and what is the quality of that area, habitat complexity, which includes several components, including the amount of large woody material present, number of pools, clarity of water, etc. Percent canopy cover, which is estimated based on each reach, spawning potential, which considers the presence or the lack of suitably graded spawning substrate for the target species mentioned previously, and hydraulic alteration, which entails the presence of things like recreational rock dams, irrigation diversions, and bank armoring. The combination of the habitat gain and the quality of that gain derived from those 5 metrics gives what DFW refers to as the QHA score. In short, the more habitat accessed through barrier correction and the higher quality that habitat is, the higher the QHA score, and vice versa. This concludes the section on WDFW technical assistance. Note that WDFW can complete and conduct any of the work outlined in this section at any time, and sponsors are encouraged to contact WDFW with questions or to schedule site visits, barrier assessments, and QHAs.